For 7 years, no stranger had crossed the old ranch gate. Folks said the lonely rancher had buried his heart beside his wife. But one quiet evening, a widow arrived holding the reins of his missing horse, and before the sun set, she revealed a secret that would change both their lives forever. Stay with me until the very end, because the final promise beside an old apple tree will leave you in tears. And if you love heartfelt stories about kindness, hope, and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable Western tales. For 7 long years, every sunrise on Caleb Harper's ranch looked exactly the same. Before the first light touched the mountains, he was already feeding horses, repairing fences, stacking hay, or mending broken tools. The ranch had once echoed with laughter. His late wife, Hannah, had filled every room with music and warmth until sickness stole her away. Since that day, Caleb had quietly closed the front gate, not with a lock, but with his heart. Travelers knew they could water their horses at the creek, but no one expected an invitation inside. Even neighbors respected his silence, they said. The lonely rancher spoke more to his horses than to people. Caleb never argued. Loneliness had become easier than risking another goodbye. One autumn evening, as golden sunlight spilled across the valley, he noticed hoofprints leading toward his pasture. His favorite chestnut horse, Ranger, had wandered away 2 days earlier during a storm, and despite searching every canyon and creek, Caleb had found nothing. He feared wolves or thieves had claimed the faithful animal. Then came a gentle knock at the gate. Standing there was a young widow wearing a faded burgundy dress and patched apron. Besides her stood a small boy holding the reins of Ranger. The horse looked tired but unharmed. Caleb stared in disbelief before slowly walking closer. The woman lowered her eyes respectfully. "Sir," she said softly, "I believe this horse belongs to you." Caleb examined Ranger carefully before asking where she had found him. The widow explained that she and her son, Tommy, had discovered the exhausted horse tangled in fallen branches beside a river nearly 20 miles away. They spent 2 days nursing the animal, sharing their own food and sleeping outdoors so they could safely return him. Caleb reached into his pocket and offered every dollar he carried. The widow gently pushed his hand back. "No, sir," she whispered. "My husband taught me that returning what belongs to another isn't something you sell." Her answer surprised Caleb more than the horse itself. Few people refused money when winter was approaching. Looking closer, he noticed worn shoes, patched sleeves, and a tired child trying not to shiver, yet neither of them asked for help. Instead, Tommy smiled at Ranger and said, "He's a good horse, he missed home." Something inside Caleb stirred for the first time in years. He invited them inside for supper, not out of charity, but gratitude. The widow hesitated, explaining they needed to continue toward the next town before dark. Caleb simply replied, "No one should travel these hills after sunset." During supper, he learned her name was Clara. Her husband had died building a railway bridge, leaving debts that forced them from their small cabin. They weren't searching for gifts, only a place where honest work could earn an honest future. Caleb listened more than he spoke, but when Tommy laughed as Ranger poked his nose through the kitchen window, the old farmhouse echoed with a sound that had forgotten, laughter. Caleb didn't realize it yet, but the silence guarding his heart had begun to crack. The next morning, Clara thanked Caleb for his kindness and prepared to leave before sunrise, believing she had already accepted more than she deserved. But as she lifted her small bundle, Caleb stopped her with a quiet offer. "The north pasture fence is falling apart," he said. "If you're still looking for honest work, I could use another pair of hard-working hands." Clara smiled with relief, accepting the opportunity, not as charity, but as a chance to earn her family's future. Over the following weeks, she cooked hearty meals for the ranch hands, planted a thriving vegetable garden, repaired worn blankets, and brought warmth back into the once silent farmhouse. Young Tommy quickly became Caleb's shadow, eagerly helping feed chickens, gather eggs, and brush Ranger every evening. The lonely ranch, empty for 7 years, slowly filled with laughter, shared meals, and hopeful conversations. Caleb noticed that Clara never wasted food, never complained about difficult work, and always thanked him for every opportunity. Her quiet strength reminded him that true dignity wasn't measured by wealth but by character. One rainy afternoon, while clearing the dusty attic, Clara discovered a wooden chest filled with Hannah's old journals, family recipes, and unfinished quilts. Unsure what to do, she carried the box to Caleb. He stood silently, holding memories he hadn't touched since his wife's passing. Instead of reopening old wounds, Clara gently suggested they complete Hannah's unfinished quilts together and donate them to struggling families before winter. Touched by her compassion, Caleb agreed. Together, they spent evenings sewing by lantern light, honoring the woman he had loved while creating hope for others. As word spread through the valley, neighbors were amazed to see smoke rising from Caleb's chimney again, and children laughing in the yard. Yet not everyone welcomed the change. A greedy land speculator named Victor Barnes arrived with legal papers claiming Clara's late husband had owed him money. He demanded she leave immediately or surrender everything she owned. Fear returned to Clara's eyes, but this time she was no longer standing alone. Caleb calmly stepped beside her and said, "This ranch has always respected honest people. If you have a lawful claim, we'll settle it fairly, but you won't frighten a hard-working widow under my roof." Victor promised to return with the sheriff, leaving behind a heavy silence. As the storm clouds gathered outside, Caleb realized he was no longer protecting only his ranch. He was protecting the family that kindness had unexpectedly brought to his door. A few days later, the sheriff returned with Victor Barnes, but after carefully examining the records, he ruled that the supposed debt had already been paid years earlier. Victor had forged the claim hoping to drive Clara away and pressure Caleb into selling part of his ranch. Shamed before the entire town, Victor was arrested, while Clara finally felt the weight of fear lift from her heart. That evening, Caleb led Clara and Tommy to the old apple tree where Hannah was buried. He quietly admitted that for 7 years he had believed loving again would dishonor his late wife. But meeting Clara had taught him something different. That kindness doesn't replace love, it allows love to grow again. Months later the ranch became known as a place where weary travelers found honest work, warm meals, and respect instead of judgment. Tommy proudly called Caleb Pa, not because anyone told him to, but because love had already made them a family. Standing together beneath the same ranch gate where they first met, Caleb smiled and said, "You didn't just bring my horse home, you brought me home too." And so, one simple act of honesty opened a heart that had been closed for 7 years. Proving that the greatest journeys don't begin with finding what was lost. They begin with finding someone worth opening your heart to. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes kindness can still change lives. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.